start with our Fun Mothers video. Thank you, Irene, for that video. Are we okay to start? Okay. Hello and good morning, everyone. Welcome to the 17th Preschool Enrichment Fair. We are live this morning from East Bay Tri-City area of Fremont, Union City, and Newark. I am Gunjan, and I've been with Fun Mothers Club for a little over 3 years now. I joined in 2017 when I was pregnant with my second one. I have previously organized this event live, and this time we've gone digital like every single conference in the whole world. And we are here today to discuss the offerings of our schools and enrichment centers, the precautions, special considerations that schools have had to take during this pandemic. We are joined today by 6 of the leading schools, county organizations, and kids activity organizations. So with that, I would like to introduce our 6 esteemed guests this morning. I will start with our first panelist, Barbara Kasnick. She's from 4Cs Alameda. Barbara Kasnick is the Child Care Resource and Referral Manager for 4C Alameda County. 4C provides referrals to childcare, subsidized childcare for low-income families, as well as services such as parent cafes, clothing closet, food pantry, and even supplies, masks, wipes, and sanitizers for providers. Welcome, Barbara.
Thank you.
And panelist 2 is from the Executive Director of Olive Children, Carmina Harris. Carmina, if you can wave to our viewers. Carmina has her MA in Education, specializing in special education and differentiated teaching. She's currently pursuing her PhD in early childhood education. Her passion stems from teaching children in their natural environment that is filled with tools that allow them to fulfill their curiosity and engage them in lifelong learning. Welcome, Carmina.
Thank you.
Our third panelist is Jasbir Rattan, the principal of Stratford School. One of Stratford School's original employees, Jasbir has more than 25 years of experience in the field of education. She currently serves as principal of Stratford School's Fremont Boulevard campus. If you can wave, Jasbir. Welcome, Jasbir.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Our fourth panelist is Janine Segerian, Director of Early Education at Fremont Christian School. Janine attended Biola University and later graduated with a Bachelor of Science in Child Development from Fresno State University. Having been in a teacher role herself, she finds great satisfaction in developing and supporting her gifted teachers. Welcome, Janine. If you can wave to our audience. Thank you. Then our fifth panelist is, they've hosted us a number of times in the past, Megan Eidzen from Kimber Hills Preschool. Megan has had 15 years of experience teaching children and has a bachelor's degree in child and family development. She hopes to continue to provide quality childcare for families in the Tri-City area in the years to come. Welcome, Megan. If you can wave to our audience, thank you. Our sixth panelist is Pooja Shah from the very famous Kids to Pros. Pooja Shah is the CEO of Kids to Pros and manages strategic vision and business interactions. Kids to Pros has been providing park pods, in-person education, socialization needs to children in the Bay Area and other metropolitan areas nationwide. Hi, Pooja. Welcome.
If you can for having me. Audience. Thank you.
All right. So before we start, we are live today on Facebook and YouTube this morning. For the first 60 minutes, we will be engaging in a live discussion with our panelists. After that, we will take audience questions for 15 minutes. To post any audience questions, you can use our Facebook or YouTube comment stream. And after that, we will give out instructions to join our virtual tours, including Fun Mothers Club. So stay through the end because you will get cool discounts just for today to join the Fun Mothers Club panel, and there might be some giveaways too. All right. So with that, I want to start with our live session. So last year, there was an article in Washington Post which kind of went viral, which said women are not okay. And that was to bust the myth of the equality status quo, if you will, and how women were bearing a lot of the brunt of childcare, and then on top of that, education. Fast forward 10 months. My first question is, what has changed since the beginning of the pandemic? What is the status of schools? Are schools reopening, and are students returning to campus? Do you want to start, Barbara, start us off this morning and tell us what you're seeing about the schools in Alameda County?
I want to say I love the video. I'm not a mom, but I want to join. It sounds like a really good group to join. So thank you for the video. It was very fun to watch that. So the childcare situation, and we're really talking about programs for children specific under school age and then after school programs. The pandemic has just, I don't want to use such a strong term, but I'm going to, but it's pretty much devastated the childcare community. It was already at a critical point where the capacity did not meet the need for services. And we have found at Four Seas of Alameda County, we serve the southern part of Alameda County, so south of San Lorenzo, and then over to the east of Fremont. We have lost about 30% of the childcare supply through this pandemic. The childcare supply really has been impacted because many of the providers, the family childcare providers, were at an age where they were in that age group that was susceptible to the pandemic or to the COVID. So we expect that we might get a little bit of that back, but we will not get the 30% back that have left the field because it's just not. It's not either it's a medical reason where they may not come back, or it might be a financial reason. So that's what we're struggling with right now is trying to get the supply back, as well as trying to coordinate with local agencies to support the programs that are currently open. Support them by not only providing supplies and materials that they need. You mentioned wipes. Bleach, disinfectant, masks, gloves. Gloves are the biggest piece that we're finding. So not only, using our connections, trying to provide supplies for the providers, but also information. You're absolutely right where parents are scared about leaving their children in programs. And they have a right to be scared. I mean, this pandemic is something we've never seen before. And we're learning new things every single day. So one of the charges that our organization has is to really balance the information with the providers, giving them the tools that they need in order to ensure that they're operating safely. And then also providing information to parents about what they should be looking for as far as if they do have to go back to work, what are the pieces that make a quality program during the pandemic. So that's what our agency is focusing on at the moment.
Thank you, Barbara. So Can I invite a comment from Jasbir on this? Because Stratford, as an example, has multiple campuses. Can you tell us, like, are all the schools opening? What are you seeing with the students returning?
We opened, so Stratford is a private school, and we lost a lot of students as well when we went into distance learning back in March of last year. It was difficult. Children are so young. They need to be in schools. They need to have socialization going on. They need to have learning going on. And so when we went into distance learning, it was very difficult for the young ones to sit. We did offer Zoom. We offered classes. We had a lot of children that did enroll and stay on at school, but it was difficult because, like I said, children need to be in schools and they need to be socializing, learning, and playing. In the summer, we did open up our preschool in person on campus, and parents were hesitant at first. We started off with a small number of children coming to school. We had a lot of protocols in place to cope with COVID. We had lots of sanitization, hand washing, distance, social distancing, temperature taking, lots and lots of protocols in place. And we found that as time was going on, our numbers were increasing, and we're adding classes. We started off with just a couple of classes. We're just adding the classes because parents are wanting to send their children back to school. They need the time, they need to work, they need the children in school. That's been our experience thus far.
Thank you, Jasbir. Carmina, one final comment from you from Olive Children. What has been the experience in terms of opening schools in different centers?
We technically actually didn't close. So on March, I think 13th was the day that it was announced that we all had to close. We quickly shifted gears and went on to online learning. And then when we got the green light to actually accept essential workers, children of essential workers, we went ahead and did that. Our classrooms are quite a bit different from a regular preschool. We removed all of our carpets and anything that's not feasible to be cleaned and washed right away. So each of the children have individual desks. The children has to come in just like Stratford had to do. They had to wash their hands, take their temperature, spray their shoes. But overall, with the children that are here, it is quite different because a lot of, as Barbara was saying, and they were saying that our parents, when they come in for a tour, when they call in for a tour, a lot of them have a huge skepticism of coming back to school. But with the protocols in place, which I'm glad that licensing has actually given us these protocols and we follow through it to the T, it actually gives them comfort that there is a way to be able to go through this pandemic. And the most important thing is that the children have this peer-to-peer connection, and they still need to have it. As the time grows, our enrollment is increasing. The parents, now that the vaccine is happening and most of our teachers are vaccinated, it's more relaxed. The parents are now calling back and asking to come back. But the challenge that we're facing right now is that as the numbers come up, is licensing going to relax the number of students per classroom? That's what the question that we have, because if we are still limited within the amount of students in the classroom, we're still going to be limited in overall enrollment that we will have.
Yeah, that's an interesting point, and I think something that I want to ask next. But before that, I'd like to ask Pooja, since you cut through across different schools, right? Like, so how are you running your program, and just even more generally, what are you seeing across the different schools in different counties? Because you're not just present in Alameda. Can you just add to this?
Absolutely. I would, what Gunjan and Carmina said. There were guidelines that were provided by the county, and for Kids 2 Pros, which is an after-school provider, our limitations were a little different than the school has to follow, in which I say it was relaxed. but we took safety and keeping community safe to the very next level. Even in our outdoor pods, temperature checks, asking students to mask up, keeping masks on all the time. Hand washing was very critical. It was when we were at the onset of this. Summer camps last year were in 4 different counties: Santa Clara, San Mateo, Contra Costa, and the Santa Clara County had the strictest guidelines. So we took that as our holy grail and said, if we'll take the strictest one and we'll apply it across the board, because the strictest will allow us to make sure that our students are safe, and in return, the community is safe, because this is a community spreader COVID-19 pandemic that's going on, right? So it was very important for us. So we found out taking the strictest guidelines and applying it to all the locations was very helpful. That in turn helped us build more confidence with schools in different parts of the country and with families, saying, we know that children will be safe with this organization. They're taking the strictest guidelines and adhering to it. And I can even say this, that as we go along in states where we will be allowed, we will make sure that every single one of our teachers and instructors will be vaccinated before they come in touch with the students. So we're working very rapidly on making that possible across the new hires and the instructors and teachers that we're bringing on.
Okay, thank you, Pooja. So that brings me to the question of how many students are each of these schools accepting in the program, as opposed to what your capacity was in the past? And what is the student to teacher ratio now? And are there any strict guidelines being enforced? So for this question, we will start with Megan from Kimber Hills.
Yeah, we do quick math really quick. Most of our classrooms are reduced in capacity by like 30 to 40% now of what the capacity of a classroom is. So we're really just limited by what classrooms we can have. 10, 20, 30, 40. I would say the max we could ever take right now is 50 with this new ratio, because it's 1 to 10, 1 teacher for every 10 kids. And on top of that, it's a cohort of no more than 16 people. So it's 14 kids with 2 teachers. And that's been very interesting to try, and you just have to have more staff than we needed prior to pandemic. So,
and this is only in the preschool?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we are 18 months through pre-K. Okay. So the oldest that we take is pre-K.
Okay. How about Janine, you at Fremont Christian?
Yeah, so I want to say that similar to Megan, we have been a very large school of ours is a total of about 180 preschoolers. So, and we have a very large staff, but I just want to share the silver lining for parents in all of this. When you have a large school with a large staff, and because of these amazing state loans that they've given to schools, we've been able to access that and keep our staff on. In terms of what this looks like for a child or for a parent, when you add all of the precautions that we're doing to stay safe, and because of that, we haven't experienced any exposures at this point, constant hand washing, constant sanitizing routinely throughout the day, that creates a really safe atmosphere for a child. And so we have classes that are maxed out at 14. Many of them are even smaller with 2 teachers. So for a child, that looks like a better ratio than they've ever seen, a lot of attention from teachers. And if you think about it, teachers are being screened daily at our school, and so are the children. And so you've got this healthy environment there where they have a small group of friends. Again, we were talking about the importance of socialization, which is crucial at this age for learning. So really, they're getting more attention from their teachers. They're having more space in these large classrooms to play, more outside time on the structures and the large playground. So actually, I just want to say that this may be the best time ever to be in preschool for the children. I know they're right outside my window and they are very happy. like I said, probably healthier than ever. Even in our homes, if we're really honest, we're not doing this routine sanitizing throughout the day. So it's actually created quite a healthy and fun atmosphere for the kids at this time.
Thank you, Janine. Yeah, that's an interesting perspective that they've never had the sort of this ratio before, and maybe
Right.
more individualized attention.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so I think a lot of you talked about sanitization. And so with that, I want to go into what are the precautions that the schools have had to take or are taking for the benefit of their staff, for the students, and for the sanity of parents, as a parent myself, and for your janitorial staff, right? Like there are various kinds of people on school campuses or would need to be in school campuses. So what kind of measures have you guys taken in terms of PPE, staffing, sanitization? Can Carmina, maybe you start us with what's happening at Olive Children?
Sure. Actually, I want to thank 4Cs because they, in the very beginning, when we had to get all the cleaning supplies, 4Cs actually helped out quite a bit with the gloves, the masks, and the cleaning supplies. So thank you, Barbara, and your team for that. So precautions that we do. So we actually built, the first and foremost is the frequent hand washing. Our center does not have sinks outside so that the kids can wash. Our parents, actually, one of our parents built us these rolling carts that's a sink, and we can actually roll it into our play yard and roll it by the door. And that's the very first protocol that we had to do, was to hand wash. And the rest, of course, is the temperature check and all that stuff for the staff and the children. But first and foremost, also on top of that, we as staff, we have to keep our social bubble tight, and the families as well. And they basically, no one has taken vacations anywhere outside at all. We have to keep keep it safe, because our first and priority is to be able to serve the kids and the families. And if we are not safe ourselves, then we can't expect our families to be doing the same thing.
Yeah, that's interesting that you bring that up, that means stricter protocols for you in your individual life as well. Jasbir, can you tell us about what Stratford, what precautions are being taken? Because I think for your school group, it's not just preschool, it goes through different levels. So
yes. Well, we have several campuses. We have many campuses, but in the city of Fremont, we actually have two campuses. And one is predominantly preschool, pre-K, and kindergarten, and the other one goes up to middle school. So we have many campuses, and we have a home office, and they have provided us with everything that we need. So we have plenty of gloves, sanitizing solutions, chemical, the lotions, the whole works. We have it all. Safety, of course, as we're discussing, is paramount. And we're allowing no visitors inside the campus, the hand washing, the temperature taking, everything that everyone's doing. We've limited our classroom substantially. We're sanitizing through the day, not only the inside. Children are separated. Normally at a child's table, we would have 6 students. Now we've narrowed it down to 2. We have 1 child at each end, as opposed to sitting 3 on each side. Like I said, hand washing is continuous. We even sanitize our playground outside when the children have been out. We're not mixing cohorts. We're not mixing classrooms. The children stay in their cohort with their same teacher. And like somebody else just said, the teachers, no one's taking any vacations because it's, safety again. So we have a lot of safety aspects in place for the safety of the children, their families, and my staff. And, now that vaccinations are happening, we are giving our teachers paid time off to go get vaccinated. We want everyone to get vaccinated and to be safe. Safety is the priority. Those are the things that we're doing right now.
Thank you, Jasbir. Anyone wants to add, if anything has been missed out so far, any precautions that have been taken at your school, or what you're planning to do in the future?
I'd love to just share something for moms at home who might have. So the same things that were mentioned, we're doing. I think all the good preschools are doing those things. I just want to say, if you have a fear about your child wearing a mask, because I know 2 and above, that's the regulation. I just want to say, speak for all the directors here. We treat this as we would any other health or safety skill at school. So it's a matter of teaching the kids with patience and persistence that this is an important skill and this is what we're doing. And you would actually be surprised. I was pleasantly surprised at how kids are able to wear these masks and they do it without complaint, and they're happy just to put it on and, you know, find the joy in their day and just do it without complaints. Whereas adults, we struggle, right, with the mask. But of course we do it. We do it. But kids really aren't having as much problem as you think they would. And again, we treat it with patience and like a skill to be learned as an important health skill. So masks are doable.
Thank you, Janine, for adding that. Yeah, I mean, I've my 3-year-old constantly takes it off, and that's my worry, that if he does go to school, is he going to do the same thing? And I want both my kids. One is older, so she's much better, but to keep the mask on. And these days, I think 2 of them are being prescribed more often than not, right?
Yep.
So the next question for me is, lately, I have seen a lot of email communication from the school itself. So in that, and obviously there's been this whole prevalence of Zoom. It's the next thing you hear after the word education. So how has communication with your parents changed? How are they allowed to even spend that extra minute while dropping off the kid or picking up? If not, how are they communicating with you guys over protocols, over timings, holidays, things like that? Can I invite a comment from maybe Olive Children again?
Sure. So we use a digital format called ProCare. So a lot of our communication goes through that way. And that goes with all 3 different centers between Warm Springs, Little Steamers, and St. James as well. And for the most part, our windows are open. At least for St. James, we have these wide windows. So if we have to communicate to the parents, they're actually literally on the other side of that window, and we can actually communicate if we have to do face-to-face. Or most of the time, it's at the end of the day and we're all outside and we still have to do the 6 feet apart. But for the most part, a lot of our communications are done through ProCare.
Okay. And maybe, Pooja, can you tell us how you're communicating with the parents for after schools or, you know, these activities where it's a part-time program?
Absolutely. Kiss to Pros has been nationwide for a bit. We're going into more markets this year than ever before, 14 to be precise. So we have built our own technology platform. So from telling parents an hour before the program begins, hey, make sure to drop off your child. Please do not leave the car. Have the mask on. To having a teacher or the instructor who's making sure that the process is streamlined. We communicate everything via email and text messages, and our reminders are set up in such a timely manner that, as Irene pointed out at the very beginning, mothers are busy, parents are busy, and it's hard to keep up with what is this one and what is that one. So letting them know in a timely fashion an hour before class start, hey, your program is about to begin. Make sure your child's dropped off. Do not leave the car. Reinforces that. Similarly, staff is never allowed, parents or the school staff is not allowed where programs are being held in the vicinity of children. So technology has been very critical in building our company, because there are 3 aspects. There's parents, there's teachers, and there's students. Just like you have to tell parents, please don't leave the car, pickup is at this time, we will meet you at a pickup point, and so on. We also have to do the same with our instructors and teachers. If you're feeling sick today, please notify us immediately so we can make sure that somebody else is going to take your class. So we have built that robust platform that is used for parents, teachers, and students, because we have heard families in our after school program where they feel like they might be in quarantine and they want to notify us about that, about their child. So we use our technology platform very heavily with constant reminders, 90 minutes in advance, half a day in advance, 24 hours in advance. So parents know that there's a way for them to communicate back to us. And we have a dashboard that we manage to make sure that this is all happening in a robust way. So we've been our technology platform is heavily used at all points in time for ourselves.
Thank you, Pooja. Yeah, it's interesting that you. Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I just wanted to. This is Barbara.
Go
I
ahead.
just wanted to interject that all of the technology and all of these things. This is the new clinical normal. But in my experience, working with a lot of the childcare programs, family daycare, center-based programs, I think the intangible things are still there. And I really want to assure parents that the things that we would look for before the pandemic are still the things that you should look for now. The technology and all those communication things are really great as far as important communication. But I still see the children just beaming when they see their teacher and they go into a classroom environment. So I really want parents to understand that that someone had mentioned earlier about that children need to have that connection with other kids. They need it for their teachers too. Teachers are very resilient folks, and I really want parents to have that.
Barbara, I think your video froze. I don't know if you can hear us.
Sorry, I froze a little. The technology is going to be there, but the softness and those intangible pieces are always going to be the part of childcare that they should expect.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's true.
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
No worries at all. Thank you, Pooja. Though I mean, I would love to get those text messages actually, because you're totally right. Parents are busy, and we don't mind those additional alerts that tell you that, especially things are evolving in the situation, and day to day things might change, and so staying on top of communications has been really important, right?
Yeah, there's a change in the county guidelines practically on weekly basis. And during the start of the pandemic, when masks were allowed to iffy for kids, then it became mandatory for kids 2 and above. How do you communicate that with a quick turnaround to the family? So these communication tools are extremely important. And so is making sure that if your staff can't make it, because they're humans and there could be infection that they might be aware of. So it's very important that technology stays the centerpiece of communication when parents are always busy and wanting to hear from an organization.
Yeah. Thank you.
I can even piggyback on that really quick.
Yeah.
I second that completely. I feel, all parents want to know how their child is doing during the day and, what are they learning, and the communication piece and trying to figure out what exactly that looks like, how to do that well, can be difficult sometimes. And I think pandemic has really made us all shift to, okay, we need to think about this differently. And I don't necessarily want to speak for everyone else, but it kind of sounds similar of, that is something that has been really strengthened because we've had to get creative about it, where we can't just have face-to-face conversations all the time and trying to figure out how can we communicate with families and let them know that their child is still doing well, or if there's things that we need to continue to work on or whatever that is. I think we have had to get creative over it. And if anything, it's strengthened our ability to communicate with families over the past year.
Absolutely.
Of course, yeah, and become technology experts. And in fact, very recently, I want to say about just a day or two ago, I read that in Washington alone, I mean, educators these days are also becoming epidemiologists, because they're the first ones or the second ones to know about what's happening on the ground about the pandemic, about how to deal with it, vaccinations and things like that. So my next question is, I think a lot of you referred to kids need the socialization. So I want to like change gears a little bit and go into that. That how have you seen kids, the effect of the pandemic, the self-inflicted self-isolation that we've had to go through, the social distancing, how is that impacting kids? Is it a short-term thing, or do you foresee that this can have long-term effects? And I think this is also to probably help and nudge parents a little bit, even like myself, to send kids to preschools and schools. So maybe, Megan, we start with you for this one.
Yes, of course. Socialization is huge. I feel like it's one of those foundational pieces that, while the kids can definitely learn it as they get older, it'll just kind of come from a different place. So the kids have adapted very well, where it's okay, well, maybe you just can't play as close to your friend as you used to be able to prior, but that doesn't mean that you can't actually still play with somebody or still have that conversation or play or build something together. It just might look a little bit different now. And being able to have that socialization from this young age will help as they keep going in school, as they start getting older too.
Okay. Someone has a comment to add there? Barbara, can I invite you to add to this about the socialization aspect for kids, especially preschoolers?
Yeah, I think that one of the benefits of children being, back into a normal routine is they're not hearing about all this peripheral stuff around COVID. That children, as an early educator, I learned in all my classes that you tell kids the things that they need to know in a way that they can understand it. Kids can't process the information as adults do. So I think that as much as possible, if we can get children back into a relatively normal environment. I mean, this is going to be different. It's going to be different probably forever. But getting them back into a routine and an environment where they can get into the social emotional growth. They can go into the physical growth. They can be part of their normal routine. I do worry about the mental health issues that may from trauma. I mean, we're hearing so much about trauma-informed care, and this is a trauma for a lot of children. That wearing the masks or even just hearing this nonstop. If the parents are hearing it nonstop, the kids are hearing it nonstop. So if getting them into an environment where they can have their regular routine, regular play activities, I think that it will assist in reducing the emotional impact. But as much as we can do that, I think that the better we will be. So getting the schools open again is probably the most paramount thing for the state. And as I'm sorry, I've forgotten who mentioned it about the counties. In Alameda County, they're just starting with the 1B, which is the category that essential workers and childcare providers get into for the vaccinations.
Right.
So getting those people that are caring for kids vaccinating will really speed up that process of getting back into a normal situation.
Right. May I interject?
Mm-hmm. Go for it.
So one of the things that we tell our parents, and it's quite important too, it comes close to heart because I have children also that are online learners, and one of the things that we actually share with the parents is that right now with everything that's happening in the world, the social emotional aspect of the children is highest priority.
Mm-hmm.
The academics becomes second, because we can always catch up a child later on, but it will be much more damaging for a child to be able to it becomes traumatic for them, and we don't want to traumatize the children with it. So we've actually in the classrooms, and I'm looking at the classroom that I'm sitting in right now. Whenever a child has a mask, we did a tether. So when the child falls the mask, we literally just have to do a gesture, like this tells you that you need, adjust your mask, and it becomes normal. If you normalize what is abnormal, it becomes accepted, and with that, then it's not as traumatic for the children, because honestly, we try to normalize this as much as possible, at least in here. As adults, we know that it's not normal. And as adults, we want them to be not wearing masks at all, being able to not, be close to each other and be able to sit in a reading nook and be able to share a book together, instead of having to do one-on-one. So we try to normalize what's abnormal, because the social emotional aspect of it is the importance right now.
Mhm.
Would I
Thank you,
be able
Karen.
to interject really quickly?
Yes, yes.
So I just want to share with moms and dads out there that this is kind of a personal issue. You have to look at your own setting at home. So we've all shared that children learn in the context of a relationship. This is through research that we know that, whether it's relationship with children, with the adults, we learn through the context of relationship. And so your kids do need some social interaction. And think in terms of how they learn to share. That's through social interaction. How they learn to have manners, again, through social interaction. The second thing would be is we know that kids learn through hands-on play. So they need lots of opportunities, varied opportunities, indoors, outdoors, with lots of different materials to manipulate and grow those small motor and large motor skills. So if you look at your own setting and you have that at home and you have plenty of time to give that to your child, or they have brothers and sisters to interact with, or a small bubble of friends to play with, you might have that in your setting. But if you don't, then you do need to seek that out in a preschool that's safe and healthy, following all these protocols, so that your children can have those two fundamental things that they need at this particular age.
And can I add to that too, if I may? I think, Janine, what you said is absolutely correct. And I'd like to add on, when they come to school, they are learning independence and they're learning socialization and confidence building. I think these are very, very important aspects. One of the reasons why they need to be in school and not at home.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, everyone. Those are excellent points. And in that sense, there has been so much debate that's going on, and perhaps a more divided debate than even on the issue of masks. Whether should schools reopen and when should schools reopen? And Alameda County, can anyone of you tell us where does Alameda County and schools generally stand on that view? From the teachers, what are you seeing?
I think I would just say, can you do it safely? So we're a private school. We go from 18 months to 18 years to high school, but we've made our decisions. Basically, you look at your school setting and can you do it safely? So the preschool, we were following protocols of daily screenings, hand washings throughout the day, wiping things down, as many of you were even before the pandemic. I meet with parents in an interview and get everybody on board with, you are not here unless you're healthy 100%. And we've always done that. We've just upped the game, right, in terms of more safety precautions. So I feel like you look at your own school setting, you look at the ratios and the staff that you have. And if you can do it safely, like in our case, we opened our preschool. We've been open all but 1 month where we were just cleaning. So, and then now we're opening our other age groups as we see that we have the space and a safe way to distance them.
Yeah.
And I would like to just expand on Janine's comment about relationships earlier. You know, in order to get through this, you really do have to have that strong relationships with the families, the children, and the programs. If you can't expect the parents that are coming to your programs to have trust in you if you're not doing the things that you would need to do in order to be safe. So opening up a safe program, it could be, extra cleaning, all of the things that they've talked about this morning, but having that relationship built on trust so that the communication, and it's also what the modeling that you're doing. The modeling is really important. It's just like for children, people model what they see. So if the programs are cleaning their programs, if they're taking temperatures, if they're discussions, those are all things that the program should be doing, and they are doing, as far as I'm aware. We talk mostly with parents on our referral line. However, in the other piece of our giving out supplies and materials, we're getting the provider side too. So all of the providers are really stepping up, and I think that modeling that kind of behavior is really going to help build the trust of the program for parents.
Yeah, definitely. Anyone else wants to add to that? If not, then I have a question on how situation has been changing and evolving, right? So in December, we had to go into a second time a shelter-in-place order. How does, and all of your schools are open, programs are open. What happens if something like this happens again? Hopefully and likely not, given the vaccinations being around. But what if the tier of a county changes, or in a situation where unfortunately one of your educators contracts COVID? Maybe we start from Jasbir at Stratford.
Yes.
Have you guys prepared for eventualities like this?
If somebody gets COVID at school, if one of my teachers, is that what you're asking me? Oh, we do have the protocols in place. Immediately they don't come to school. We have to see and if they really have the COVID or not. And the thing is, it's encouraged because we don't dock their pay. So it's not like they're going to come to school sick. Oh, I need to work. I need the money. No, it's okay. You need to be at home. You need to get tested and let us know what's going on. If COVID it hasn't happened, to be very honest with you, with us because of the stringent and strict guidelines that we have in place. If it was to happen, we have the protocols in place to take care of it right there and then.
Okay. Megan, how about at Kibber Hills?
Yeah, it's very, very similar.
Anything? I was just saying, what if the situation changes in terms of cases go up, or suddenly we find that Alameda County is back up in the purple tier or something like that? Then how is the school prepared for that, given that your school is open, or an educator contracts COVID, unfortunately?
Yeah, so if we either go up in tier or things kind of close down a little bit more, I feel like the cleaning procedures and just the different regulations that we have been given as early education centers is very, very strict. But I feel like it's one of those, okay, whether you're in the purple tier or whether you're in a yellow tier, it doesn't change the high expectation of what you're actually doing. So you are still sanitizing. You are still having very similar protocols in terms of staff. Like if you are sick, I really don't want you to come, and please don't worry about if you are like, no, I need to get paid. No, like I would much rather you be safe and well than come to school and not feel well. So I feel like in terms of that, things don't necessarily change because the bar is already being set very high. That, just to be, I cannot remember who said it earlier, where Santa Clara County does tend to have a little bit stricter of different policies and expectations, that we might as well take the more strict approach and just have that be across the board regardless. If somebody did contract COVID, which luckily we also have not, our groups in our classrooms are all very separated. So if it happens in one class, that does not mean that another class has even been exposed. because we try and keep just the kids and staff very separate. So that way it's one cohort that is not being mixed together. And I encourage my staff, even if you think you might not, I'd rather you take that extra precaution, and we will take care of the children here, than even risk that at all.
Right.
Thank you. And Pooja, I think same question to you, because again, for you, it's people coming from all of these schools, and perhaps the nature of the program itself introduces more, like, mingle more freely a little bit. So what happens in these this eventuality?
Absolutely. One thing I think is good to understand is you have organizations that will have policies like us. Hey, let us know if you have COVID, inform us, and so on. And then there's the human aspect of the instructors, right? These teachers and instructors understand what a community spread could mean to them. So apart from just imposing guidelines, we're seeing human race be more cognizant. A few months ago, you would see less people wearing masks. And data shows now that the 4 big reasons why the numbers have gone down is because everybody's wearing masks. As you said, 2 masks is now recommended, and you will see a lot of people doing that. So when I think of guidelines and imposing them, I'm seeing our own instructors having a very high bar. If they feel like they have a scratch in the throat, they will be the first one to inform us. If our parents feel that they were in a classroom where their class was exposed, because we work with private schools, we work with Cupertino School District, we work with a lot of both public and private schools. Parents will inform us and say, hey, we feel like we might be exposed, we will not be sending our kids to the program. So apart from the regulations that are set, people themselves are very cognizant, instructors and parents, the two sides that have to make this possible. So we were seeing that across the board, across the entire communities that we work with. We have seen no community spread throughout the pandemic with our programs, and we have measures in place for instructors to let us know. Like I said, our reminders that go out 12 hours before the program begins. So we have an after-school program that starts at 3:30 p.m. At 9 a.m., a reminder goes to the instructor, are you feeling okay today? If not, please let us know. Has been pivotal in not having a single coach come in or teacher instructor come in with COVID symptoms. So those again, referring to technology, why that has been important for us. When the tiers have gone up, and it did right in the midst of our programs running, we were running our winter classes, it had no impact on us because we just simply took our programs outdoors. If we were doing arts class, we worked with the school, and outdoor classes were going on. And most of these private schools have exceptions. I bet Stratford does, Olive School does, Fremont Christian does. So we were very easily able to take our outdoor class, our after-school classes outdoors, outdoor parks, park plots. So we were not impacted when the tiers were different. That could change, and if it does, we just let parents know. Either there'll be a makeup class or we'll be making arrangements. But I think we've seen both sides of it go from a full shutdown to things opening back up. And so we all kind of can anticipate the worst could be a lockdown and what we have to do in that case. So it has actually helped us better prepare for an event like this if it happens again, because we have seen those waters and we have sailed through them. So I think collectively,
we've been in this situation for a year now, almost
right.
a year now. Yeah.
Right. As a community, I feel very confident that parents, teachers, educators, we all know have to navigate these waters.
Yeah, that's great to hear. And I think for all the parents listening to us live now, I think it must be comforting to hear that you guys are prepared. And for the ones who spoke up that have not seen any educator contract because of the precautions that you guys have been able to take. A question that I'm seeing also from the comment side, how do you mitigate exposure for parents? Like, what advice are you guys giving to parents whose kids are enrolled currently in your school? And Janine, I want to call you out on this one. You have a bigger school. Maybe perhaps the volume of questions you get are relatively larger in this.
Yeah. So first, it's preparation. So you communicate with your parents through your parent handbook, through an interview, through those types of things, exactly what you expect in terms of no outside visitors, in terms of we would like one parent to be picking up for 3 weeks at a time to limit exposure, and they've all agreed to this. We're fortunate in that we have a large play yard, and that is where the entrance to our classrooms are. So parents are able to come sign in with their own pin outside the classroom, stand at a distance from the teacher, and then say their goodbyes to their student. And then the other thing would be, again, everyone has been saying it, this open communication. So you inform your parents that they need to communicate anything. If they have symptoms, that could be exposure to their child. So again, we've just asked that they keep their kids home if there's anything going on in the family. If a child stays home, they're supposed to email us and say, we have this symptom, or mom has this symptom, so we're keeping our child home today. If they don't call us, we call them and we say, what's going on at home today? And again, we understand personal rights. We will say, again, you are not forced to do this, to like have a parent have a child stay home because a parent has a headache, for instance. But again, I think it was already said, I think parents, teachers, understand what's going on, the seriousness of this. And so we've seen a lot of unity in terms of people being willing to stay home and go the extra mile so that everyone can be safe at school.
Thank you. Jasbir, can you add as to, are parents allowed to have their own social bubbles? And what is the advice you're giving to parents if as a parent, I want to enroll my kid?
Okay, so you want to enroll, let's say you want to enroll your kid, Gunjan, to our school. What am I going to tell you as a parent? Is that your question?
Yes. Yeah. Like for COVID, these are the precautions I want you guys to follow, because obviously my kids' safety is going to impact everyone else's actually in the community these days.
Right. And I think, overall parents are very compromising. They're very intelligent. They're following the news, and they also want safety just as much as we do. So I'm not exactly telling the parents what they should and shouldn't be doing at home, but certainly when they come to our school, their social distancing is there. They're lined up 6 feet apart from each other. They're not coming into the school. We're doing, basically we're doing everything that's safety for them as well as their child. I'm not telling the parents, well, you shouldn't do this at home, or you shouldn't do that at home. And maybe I haven't understood your question correctly.
Okay. No, I just advice for parents that if you're sending your schools to an if you're sending your kid to a school or after school, what is the precautions that you can take for yourself to ensure the safety and safeguard yourself from COVID or this pandemic in general?
Okay, yeah. Well, you yourself would be wearing the masks as well as your child, and minimize your relationships as much as you can, seeing people, keeping your bubble, just what the guidelines are, pretty much. That would be my recommendation. That's what I want you to do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Jasbir. I think on that note, I think I want to ask my final question to Barbara again from 4Cs. Can you tell us more about the county's sort of regulations for as a parent, or if there are any, or for students, and of course the organizations, the school or educational organizations, and after, because we're at the juncture where vaccines are becoming more readily available, what are you seeing about the vaccination, about their distribution, and what is likely to change in terms of regulations? If you can speak to a little bit about all these topics.
So what we're seeing is that in Alameda County specific, the vaccination, they're just getting into that section 1B, the level 1B, where childcare providers are able to get their vaccination. They're sort of up in the queue. We always recommend that parents as well as anyone in the community, that you go to the My Turn website to get an. You're not going to get an appointment, but you're going to, based on the information that you provide, you're going to get notification as to when your particular group is up for vaccinations. I work in Alameda County, but I live in Santa Clara County, so I totally get those different cross county regulations. So if I lived in Alameda, I would be eligible to get a vaccine, but because I don't live in Alameda, I'm not at that eligibility point yet. The important thing to remember is that for childcare programs that are licensed, it's actually a state licensing regulation that is that sort of oversees all licensed childcare programs, and they've been really quite informative and active during this time. We've been part of the Alameda County response team that is, talk with public health, that has been going through all of these different. There's so many layers and so many organizations that are impacted. So communication, the public health department, their website is really robust as far as if you're a data person and you want to know about data, like how many cases, how many deaths in Alameda County, they actually go down by city and by zip code. But as far as like regulations, Community Care Licensing is the organization that is responsible for monitoring the child care programs. They do have really specific protocols that I'm sure all of the other panelists are familiar with, as far as if there is an exposure. There's notification protocols that where they have to notify the public health department so they can do contact tracing and all of those things. So there are protocols in place. And I would say that, as you know, from a parent perspective, you really have to trust the center programs and the administration of those programs, that they're following through on those. Someone earlier had mentioned something about community spread, and it really is about for all of us to come together in order to decrease the spread by getting the vaccinations. Really, those are the key piece. The masks, the vaccinations, and the social distancing. So there's agencies that are in charge of this, and all of the panelists are familiar with them. So parents should just feel confident that they're meeting all of these protocols.
Thank you, Barbara. So Irene, if you're around, what questions are we seeing from social media? And Jasbir says she's maybe lost connection. Can we add her back?
Maybe just in this little brief moment, I want to share that we had an opportunity last week to have our entire staff vaccinated. So I just want to give parents hope. It's happening. It started. Right. So I'm sure all the others will have that opportunity very soon. So there is hope on the horizon.
And we have two.
That's excellent news.
Yeah, we have two. My staff is going in. I've already been vaccinated myself, both of them already, both shots. So we're going in actively.
Yeah, good news.
Yeah, same here.
Irene, can we have the first question? Okay, so what happens when there's a positive COVID case in someone who attends the school daily? Does the entire school close? Anyone who wants to take this?
I'd be
willing. If not, go ahead.
So basically at this point, the way that the health department's guidelines have evolved is now you ask a cohort to close if there's a positive case. You would not need the whole school to close because the regulations and directions around cohorts are very specific. Same children, same teachers in a cohort that never has interaction with another cohort. So it's simpler to close a cohort rather than the whole school. And basically the health department has even given letters to licensed preschools that you would send in the case of a positive case. even in the case of an exposure, there are letters you can send. And like our school in particular is very transparent with parents. So we have not had any of those cases, but even if a teacher's out, we'll tell them why they're on vacation and they're taking a few days for rest, whatever, so that the communication is open. But there are specific guidelines, even around a letter that you would email your parents to make them aware of the situation in a particular cohort.
Thank you, Janine. Anyone, if they have anything to add? Otherwise, Irene, can we get the next question up? Is there a difference structurally in a public school versus private schools in terms of infrastructure? How are they able to manage so well? I mean, I think the latter part is for a private school because a lot of public schools aren't open yet. Anyone who wants to take this?
I would just say the difference in a childcare situation, that there is a difference between licensed and unlicensed programs. So the licensed programs are controlled and monitored by community care licensing. So parents can contact community care licensing directly, but they have to meet those same protocols that Janine was just mentioning. That if there is a COVID positive test, that there is strict guidelines of who they have to notify and how they have to notify. So there is a difference between public and private. The licensing will do the licensed programs. They don't have control over the unlicensed programs.
Okay.
Can I just add, it might be a matter of space. Yeah. So maybe in a private school setting, or it just depends on any school setting. Like we happen to have very large classrooms. And so again, those classrooms used to house 18 to 24 children. Now those classrooms have 14. But again, there are guidelines around how far kids need to be apart at nap time. So you have to have space for those kids to be 6 foot apart at nap time. So you do have to have space in your classroom. Someone else mentioned that they'll sit 2 or 3 at a table these days, just to keep that intentional distance throughout the day. And we work that into our day. But if you have the larger spaces, you're able to accommodate that.
Okay, thank you, Janine. Anyone else who wants to add? Okay, thank you, Irene, for this next question. This one is, did any of the schools have any cases during the pandemic period? If yes, what precautions were taken? I think in the aftermath of this. Does any of the schools have any experience of this happening?
Happily, no, we haven't.
Yeah, I know. I think
but if it did happen, we would, the children in that cohort, in that classroom, they wouldn't be coming to school, and we would sanitize and scrub and clean the classroom. They wouldn't be back in for 2 weeks, and by that time, we would have cleaned out the classroom fully. But we haven't.
Okay. It's great to hear that. I think all the panelists here and all the schools that are participating.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
With the license programs, we talked, Janine was talking about the forms that they have to submit to public health. Those forms eventually get to licensing so that we get informed later. And so from the referral standpoint of the child care referral database, if there is an outbreak in a program, we have protocols in place as well where we're not referring out that program until it's been cleared. So, while we are not in charge of monitoring outbreaks, we do get the information. So if parents are looking for childcare, they can be assured that if we have the information, we have protocols in place about referrals as well.
Good to know that there is an agency where parents can reach out to get this information, because I'm sure this is top of mind for many parents as well. Mm-hmm. Irene, other questions? Yes, there will be a recording of this available on our FunMC page on Facebook, and it will be on our YouTube channel as well for those of us who've missed this. Are there any organizations that need donations, and can the public help in any way? So I think this is an ask from, if you guys know about institutions which are accepting donations, and how can we help?
We're getting most of our funding to provide supplies through either the state, the federal government, or local entities. So, we feel like we have enough supplies and materials to give to childcare programs. But if they want to call our agency mainline, I know that there's people that need some assistance. So we'd be happy to refer them out.
Okay, thank you. All right, I think I have one question that is pertinent to just the face of education, I think in general. As living in the Bay Area, especially, more and more companies seem to be embracing remote work, right? And this probably is what it's going to look like for potentially the rest of our lives, or some form of this. So how has the pandemic shaped the future of education, or has it shaped, or is it changing, or is going to change the future of education? And on this question, I'd like to invite all of your comments, and perhaps we can start from, on the top of my screen, at least I can see Pooja from Kids to Pros, and then we'll go from there. But how do you see, the question is, how do you see this pandemic changing or shaping the future of education overall?
This question is going to be answered purely from a parent perspective from my end, not from running a company and so on. I have a first grader and a sixth grader right now, and one is thriving with the online because he has more independence, has time to figure out how to manage his work. But my of course younger one is having a very difficult time with lack of socialization. I believe that there is going to be a balance that will have to come, and that balance will shift probably on the time of the year. When it's beautiful and sunny outside, when it's spring and fall, we might be seeing more outdoor programs and kids coming back to school once or twice a week. But as soon as the flu season begins, which has always historically been from November till end of February, we might see, hey, we're going to be cooped up in the house. Though we'll have masks on, it's better to go online. I know that remote work is being embraced heavily by Silicon Valley companies and other companies around the nation. So I know that for us as parents, balance is going to be critical with this ever-shifting change in schedule. Happiness for me and my children will mean something different in March than in December. And hopefully we can take some learnings from this whole year, because now we're going to be a whole year into this on March 16, 17 days from now. We're just going to have to use that as a playbook on how to manage our emotions and help our children thrive, because it has been a difficult year. It's getting better, but we have to make it feel normal as much as possible. So
thank you, Pooja.
Long-winded answer, but that's my personal take as a parent and a working parent.
Thank you, Pooja. So on my screen next, I see Jasbir. Do you want to add? The question was that how do you see this pandemic shaping the future of education? Because we've seen this for a whole year now.
We have, yes. I think for the little ones, it's going to have to be the same way. They're a little bit too young to be able to control technology, though they've come so far. I have a little grandson who's in the kindergarten program. His technological skills have just gone so sharp. It's amazing what he can and is capable of doing. He can teach me a thing or two as well. But then I have another little grandson who's not quite there, so he's coming to preschool. Preschoolers, they need to come into school. They can't do the technology, and they need the love and the nurture from preschool teachers that we give them. They need the socializing. They need to get out there. As they get older, yes, technology will definitely take place. It's a part of our life. It's a fact of life now. it'll start off, as Pooja said, maybe a few days here, depending on the time of the year. All these factors will be taken into place, but technology is going nowhere. Even when the pandemic is gone, I foresee technology, Zooms, maybe there'll be something Zoom equivalents coming out, which haven't developed or that I don't know of, but it's here to stay.
Thank you. Barbara, in a couple of sentences, same question.
I do think that it will impact the future of education. What it looks like, I don't think any of us really will be able to understand the total impact. But teachers are resilient, children are resilient, and I think that people will make adjustments. But again, young children, I think that they just need that interaction, the socialization. And I hope that we can get childcare programs back up running quickly.
Thank you, Barbara, for that positive note. Megan, from a comment from you on this.
Yeah, no, I agree completely with what everyone else has said also. That, as with just young children, being able to learn those social skills and read facial expressions, and not just through Zoom, because you can't feel how somebody is feeling if you're not in person with them, is so critical. And I think, whether that's preschool or older than preschool, we're still going to have to kind of figure some stuff out, because I think, everybody learns so differently. And to the point of, I don't remember who went first. I think it was Pooja. Or just in terms of how your kids are doing differently, both in virtual learning, they're experiencing it very differently. And those who are kinesthetic learners and need to be able to touch and feel and actually be present in a classroom, trying to figure out how to teach them effectively, so that way they're actually learning and understanding, as well as those who are thriving on online learning. I myself thrive on online learning, but that doesn't mean that everybody does. So I think there's still going to have to be some adjusting and learning, but I agree. I think this is not something that will go away. It will just have to be something that we're going to continue to adapt to be able to reach everybody.
Thank you, Megan. And we'll go with Carmina, you next. I know we're at time and our virtual tours are about to start.
So I agree with everybody that the peer-to-peer connection is very important. But I also want to mention that we also have online preschool with our program. And with this pandemic, it's quite surreal, but it's kind of also good to be able to reach out different students from different areas. We don't have, on our online students, we have students from outside of the area, and we're still able to make that as much as of the peer-to-peer connection, but it's for them to be able to see their friends on the screen and be able to have a communication and socialization on the screen was also a success for us. But yes, a balance of peer-to-peer connection, whether it be online or in person, it's very important for the children, especially for young children.
Thank you, Carmina, for pointing out that silver lining. Yeah, that's true, that people far away have been brought together by this digital communication. And Janine,
just really quickly, education has had to change. Here's a simple yet hopeful note on that. So simple things like we used to take field trips to the pumpkin patch, right? So now what we're doing is we're bringing the pumpkins to our campus. We used to do field trips to the science museum. Now we're having our teacher put on a special science day for our children within their cohorts in a very hands-on way. So again, I think all of us are trying to be very creative and change with the changing times and bring things onto our campus as much as possible so the kids have all those same opportunities and have access to all the same fun and the same learning that they used to.
Thank you, Janine. Yeah, we've all have had to adapt ourselves, and it kind of shows human ingenuity. And with that, I'd like to close this panel. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you to Irene, who's gone behind the scenes right now. She's our Fun Mothers PSEF chairman for this year, and she has spent endless hours planning this event. There are other moms who have spent their nights on calls, multiple ones. And I would like to give a shout out to them, Dharini, Nasli, and Geeta. Thank you so much. And a big, big thank you to all our sponsors and panelists today who joined us and have enlightened us about education beyond the pandemic. And it was great to hear that you guys have such a positive outlook, and the fact that you've had no or like 0 cases so far. I'm really happy about that. Thank you so much. Now the virtual tours will all start now, including our Fun Mothers one. You can join the club. You can join for information. All the other schools will have their own virtual tours where they'll talk about their school specifically. You can find more information on our events page. One of our coordinators should be posting that online. And Irene, I think maybe we can roll out the video again.
Oh, you want to roll
everyone again?
Okay.
Thank you everyone for joining us.